This is the ABQ Business Podcast with your host, Jason Rigby. Each week we'll interview visionary business leaders to inspire the creative power and spirit that's in every entrepreneur. Discussing strengths, weaknesses, strategies, systems, and the problems we can all solve together for a new future for local small business.
I have got a guest today that's going to help a lot of small businesses. I know we have over 30,000 small business owners and we're growing tremendously every month. I'm super excited about that. And I appreciate each and every one of you subscribing to this podcast. And the growth has been phenomenal. I couldn't imagine that it would get this large here. We started in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And next thing you know, we're literally all over the world, been having some people reach out to me from Germany. So super excited about that. So if you're a small business owner, I know you're struggling. Some of you are doing okay. Some of you are doing great, but I would say majority of small businesses, especially if you're in the UK or the United States, you're struggling. And one of the concerns that you have is something that a lot of people look at and they just don't, as a business owner, as a CEO, you don't understand it fully. Well, I brought someone in today that's going to explain that to you, that's going to offer some help for you. So Leo, here we go. I'm going to try your last name. And I think I'm going to, you said Quasar? See, I already screwed it up.
Yeah, it's Cuellar.
Cuellar. Yeah, I put a Z in there. I don't know why. But you were in the military, you said, so you literally heard from drill sergeants or drill instructors probably 1,000 different ways.
Oh, yeah. I'm a ex-U.S. Air Force. And like I said, I've been through multiple, and that's a different story about multiple boot camps. But if there's a way to butcher my name, I've heard it before. Most have centered around cellular, but Cuellar is the right pronunciation. So.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I can remember that. Well, Leo, you are an expert in cybersecurity, and I don't want people to tune me out. There's like cybersecurity, that relates to if you're on a computer, this is an issue that you face. And Leo, let's start off. What company do you work with? And what do you kind of do, as far as helping businesses? And I know you had said you had talked to your CEO and board. So let's just start off right with that and your expertise, and then we'll go into some questions.
Sure. So basically, I work for a company called CyberAdvantage. We are basically lighting up a cybersecurity practice and we want to focus on small businesses and providing them the expertise that they might use. Now, one of the things that we're aware of is that, or people may not be aware of, is that a trained cyber professional, and usually if you have a director and above, they're pretty expensive, full-time employee. Small to medium businesses may not need or can afford somebody at that pay range. And they can easily go out and look at salary.com or payrate.com and see what a CISO or a director of security costs. That is really expensive. But the caveat of it is they do need the expertise and the access to the expertise to their business. One of the interesting things about small businesses is their targets, and they have been a target for a long time. And no matter how, I don't want to say if there's a misconception or misunderstanding of, a lot of businesses want to get on the internet. One of the things about connecting to the internet is there may be some people who think in the smaller, almost like the brick and mortar of like, hey, who's going to hack me or who's going to want to access my business? It's like, I'm a nobody. I'm just getting on the internet. Well, the thing about the internet is the problem is that it's not that no one is trying to hack you because there really isn't a person out there. The issue is that there are so many automated processes that as soon as you show up, they're going to scan you, test you. It's basically a automated burglar that comes in and tries all your doors and just to check. Because for them, if you look at hacking as a business, and I almost want to put this out to small business owners. Imagine that that it's on the other side, right? These guys are considering hacking and looking for small businesses as a profit model. If they find 2 or 3 cents, and imagine any account that you have on your computer is worth a penny or two. You collect enough of these pennies and they're making a profit, and they have made a profit. So they're in this as a profit model, as a business. you're basically their well, I don't want to say their customer, but you're basically, their margin. They're trying to collect things. And if a business doesn't take the basic steps and the realization and awareness that they are providing the merchandise to another business, they're just going to find themselves at a disadvantage, and they're going to be hurting in one way, shape, or form with either, breaches, uh, brand impact, vulnerabilities, their computers being taken over, ransomware. All of that is automated. I don't want to say there's nobody out there. It's just that it's a business.
Yeah, and when you look, I was talking to a business here recently, and they had been in business a long time. So they had collected in their DMS system, they had collected uh, over 100,000 emails and people's information, their personal address, their info, and they collect social security numbers too. So they had this is a small business in Albuquerque that has over 100,000 people, their social security, their address, their cell number, their mobile phone number, their full name. And that would be to me like a gold mine, even though it's a small business.
Right. And sometimes, and there are reports, and you can look at analysis out there from, and that's part of the challenge with cybersecurity, that it really is overwhelming information. But there are, and you want to almost call them hacking businesses, right? There are
Mm.
businesses who do nothing but scan for open IPs. Then they hand them off to some other scanner who says, "Hey, these guys have these computers," and then they hand them off to somebody else saying, "These computers are running this OS, and they have these vulnerabilities." So literally, there are businesses within that are markets, and as they each come across, and it's all automated. I mean, there's you know the guys, like I said, sometimes when they do these scripts, they're just sitting back and they're watching in the pennies roll in, because
Mm.
that's all they're really looking at it. They're looking at it from models, and I also hear the thing of like, well, they're not going to hack me because it's against the law or et cetera, right? Well, what if they're not in the United States? What if
Yeah,
they don't
yeah.
care, right? I know I now I was dealing with one hacking attempt where we had a hacker who was so brazen that he basically sent us his passport ID from you know from a country overseas with all of his information, and says, "Here's my bank account. Give me the ransom." Because he literally didn't care.
So like if you because we always hear these stories of Russia, and then we always picture like these nefarious guys, these Russian mafia guys or whatever, and they're out just sitting on a computer taking all our data. It's not that simple, is it? This is happening literally all over the world.
It's all over the world, and it unfortunately it goes up and down. There's models of different hackers, so everything from people who are just having fun that they can, just for like the joyride, other guys who basically are in it for like the intellectual challenge, other guys who get together and basically say, hey, there's a profit model here. There's businesses that come together. I mean, you can actually go out and see that there's offices and office space with cubicles in Pakistan, Malaysia, and you look at them, and if you stepped into the office, you wouldn't know that there were literally like a ransomware, outfit. They build ransomware stuff, and they provide IT services. So, and that's one of the things that's kind of interesting to me is like there's actually ransomware now where you get shunted to a support service that's out of Malaysia where they will help you step through the keys to recover your data if you pay them the right amount of money. And it's literally a business model.
Mm. So let me ask you this, because you brought up a key word, and I want people to understand this. And if you could describe this as a small business, the data, that word data, and how much data a small business is putting out there with the multiple apps that they're going to, multiple cloud programs that they're using. When we look at data and cybersecurity, because that's basically what you're doing, is trying to secure data. Can you kind of go through that process and explain that?
Right. And this is one of the challenges where if you're a small business and if you're trying to get out there, you're trying to market to your clients, your customers, to your board, one of the default settings that people look that they've learned either through the school of hard knocks or through a marketing and sales is, you can't have too much data, you know, uh,
Mm.
And that is actually one of the biggest problems with cybersecurity when people think, hey, I can't have too much data. Well, you may be collecting it for your business model, but you may be ending up with a repository of data that is valuable in quantity of money as a product to one of these hacking groups. And this can be everything from, if you can imagine, like a registration system for somebody who's signing up for fitness classes, right? I
Mm,
mean, if you're
right.
going out to your local gym, the gym people, they may not be IT people. They basically say, yeah, I need your email, your home address, whatever they might need. And
Copy of your
it's
driver's
all
license.
real people. Yeah. And all of that information, if you're a hacker, could literally be parsed out, right? I could basically say, hey, I have emails of live people that I sell to one person, physical email addresses that I sell to somebody else, um, except, the different type of, because you have to think of it as a business model too.
Right, right. So let me get into one, and I know there's CEOs and there's a lot of people that have this question: is these emails that we get, these crazy emails we get, and then we click on them. What is the concern with? Because I know every business owner that I've ever talked to has gotten these, and they click on it and it goes to a weird website or whatever. Did it just install software, or is that impossible to do nowadays? What is the concern with emails?
One of the things about emails is that when you click, well, when you potentially click on a link, you're actually granting it permission to do things, or the potential to grant it to do something. And there are several ways of using an email. One is, uh, well, again, going back to that business model, right? I mean, how hard for you as an individual, even somebody who's not really, or somebody who's really not into technology, how hard do you think it would be to create, 100,000 emails across and then send them out in one batch? It's actually not that hard.
No, I
To
wouldn't think it would be that.
no, it's literally not that hard. And there are repositories of emails that are out there. And one of the business models out there is there are people that are trying to find, they're trying to locate real people instead of bogus people, and real people who will click, right? So one model of these emails is basically on the receiving end saying, "Hey, I just sent out it took me 10 minutes. I sent out 1 million emails, but in 2 days, I now have 500 people who responded and clicked on an email. I can sell that to people or advertise them and say, hey, I got 5 people from IBM.com that were willing to click on this email. I got 3 people from, let's just say Amazon, and 3 people from Boise, some Boise business, and 3 people from Albuquerque, right?
Mhm.
And there are hackers out there that are looking for these, saying, "Hey, I want to hack this company, and you just gave me 5 people who are willing to click on an email, right?" Now, if they take that knowledge, they can basically send out another email and basically customize it to that person, saying, "Hey, you have an update from Microsoft. If you click on this, it might install something, or it might install ransomware."
Yeah, and ransomware is something that will go on your computer and kind of record the things that you're doing, or like maybe can you explain that a little bit? What ransomware is?
Sure. Ransomware is a little bit. So one of the things about ransomware is they want to lock your computer in a way so that usually the scenario is that they will encrypt your hard drive, right? And then they will encrypt it unless you enter a number to
Mm,
unencrypt it. So some of these programs are kind of interesting because they will start encrypting files, and they'll be anywhere from a quarter to halfway through before you realize all of a sudden your email or your system is now acting really funky and something's not working. And then as that happens, there'll be a little pop-up that says, "Hey, we've successfully, encrypted 80% or 90% of your hard drive. If you enter, this combination, or contact us, and we will give you the number of like the combination to unlock your computer," right? And one of the things that these ransomware has is that they'll look at for your neighbors, or like if you're in an office, they'll look at anybody who's sitting next to you, and they'll try to infect those people. right? So now you have an office that has multiple computers that are locked down.
Oh Lord, yeah. I mean, that just seems like a nightmare, and I know we've all experienced different things. Now, what? Let me give you an example here, and maybe we can kind of play with this, Leo. So, let's say there's somebody, and they, let's say, because you're in New Mexico, right?
I'm in Boise.
Oh, Boise. Oh, okay, that's right. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, you're in Boise. So let's say there's medical clinics, and somebody owns 3 or 4 of them in Boise. And they use these programs that supposedly are supposed to, and they're using the medical records and stuff, and these are small business medical clinics, and they're using, these people tell them they're using, but they're not just using that program that may be on the cloud. They're using Excel sheets, they're using, there's lots of different programs, they're using emails, there's lots of different things you do on your computer. So just because you think you have one cloud based and I want you to speak to this, you have one cloud based program that you think you're ultra secure, like medical records. I mean, to me that seems like that would be the gold mine.
It kind of it depends on the service, and this is where you have third-party management, where you want to go in there and look at how they manage your data, look at your contracts to make sure that they're abiding by the contracts. And then they're also providing evidence, annual evidence, that they're maintaining those controls. If they say that they are patching their servers, usually a lot of these third-party services that manage sensitive data, such as medical data, will go through annual audits, and those audits and auditors will give them a certificate or a letter of report. And as a customer, you can ask them and should ask them, show me that you are doing this and that you don't have any controls that have failed to pass these.
So whenever, because I want to make sure people understand this completely, what is the threat, and I know you're an expert in this, with now, because of COVID and everything that's going on, and all of us are enjoying it, is this ability to feel more free and more fulfilled and work from home. But there's got to be a downside to it. So
Oh, there,
what's
yeah.
happening now?
Well, there is, like you said, there's a lot of benefits, but the downside is that when you went to the office, right, you would walk into the office, you're going through a door, you get to sit at your cube, you're sitting at a computer. The computer is managed by your local IT department. The traffic that's going, and the data that's being stored on the computer and that the computer has access to is all being watched and monitored by your local IT department. And they know if somebody is trying to hack you or your computer, and they're taking good care of you, in all the best sense of practices. So that's an office environment, right? And they know that if you have Wi-Fi at work, it's managed and locked by your IT department, and they make sure that you have that there are good practices and good standards that they adhere to. Make sure that that both physical access, network access, and application access are covered for that individual. Now, if you can imagine stepping back and saying, now we're all working from home, right?
Right.
Every single person has a different home setup. Some people have home routers that they may not even know that they needed to change the admin router password, right? They may have neighbors that hack their router and are now piggyback on it, but they don't know that they're losing bandwidth because of a neighbor that's taken over it. They may not know that there are other devices on their computers, and they don't know that to manage them. One of the nice things about, or both good and bad about smart homes, is that we're getting more and more devices at home that are literally computer devices. You know, um, Things like a Nest devices or an Ecobee that control your temperature. They are literally devices, and if somebody hacks them, they may not now have access to your home network. So one of the challenges about working from home is now you have a unique individual setup that's out of the control of your IT department, and the people who may know the best on how to protect you have no visibility to anything beyond how you get to your computer. And in some cases, the smaller businesses, they may not even do endpoint management. So if their child's computer gets hacked with a virus or ransomware, it may instantly pop over to their work computer. And
So
that's
so
one of the challenges of trying to help and manage small businesses in that case.
So let's say you have a person that's an admin and they do your office work. And so now you've said, okay, you can come in, once or twice a week, and the rest of the 3 days you can work at home. And they have let's say they have a teenage son and a teenage daughter, and those teenage son and teenage daughters are on torrent websites and all kinds of crazy stuff going on, how you could imagine that. And so now you have this laptop, this MacBook that you brought, and so our Windows PC, laptop, and now you're sitting here and you're working through the Wi-Fi. So is that like a huge security risk because of that?
Exactly. And there one of the problems with the working from home, actually it's more of a challenge. One of the challenges of working from home is that there are so many different variables and so many different threat vectors that are unique to a person's home. Somebody's home may be out in rural, Idaho, or they may have an apartment in downtown, Albuquerque, where they have 200 neighbors within, Wi-Fi, so who knows, just um, and it's one of the challenges is how do you manage all these endpoints that may now have sensitive data, right? So one of the things that on the consulting side for cybersecurity that I ask businesses is, first off, try to identify your data, and on a basic
Mhm.
level, really try to get an understanding of what is the what data do you need, right? If you don't need it, don't save it. Because it's more of a risk, right? So, do you really need people's home address? Do you really need, you know, um, just to go down that list and say, you know, if you absolutely have to collect it, then fine, but also keep track of where that data is. And if people have to have it if they have to have it at home or access it from home, then you may want to focus on those people and figure out how can you secure that individual person's device, both so they have access locally and access to a server where they can share it.
So like because I know you guys are launching out into this, and you guys are expert in this. Okay, I want my employees, I'm going to pretend like I'm CEO. I want my 30 real estate agents to still work from home. They do get a lot of work done and they're out showing houses. They're all working on their MacBooks, on their laptops. They're going to Starbucks. They're going to, all these different places, but mainly they're working from home. They come into the office every once in a while. And I do have computers set up for them there. But what are like if this real estate broker wanted to hire you, what are some of the ways that you guys could fix this issue that we have with working from home?
And again, I want to be very clear because this is one of the challenge. This is an opportunity and a challenge because the use case that you put together is very different for every single
Mm.
small business. So if I had a realtor, right, who was trying to provide access to multiple realtors, right, um, basically one of the basic things that I would kind of put together is saying, well, if you're going around showing houses, what kind of information do you need at that time to present, right? Um, and so this is very different from the client experience to where they're trying to show something. They may only need web access. So at that point, you can say, yeah, let's go through a browser, provide you that access. But on the other hand, they need access to corporate resources. So we could provide a different solution that says, okay, once you're at home, let's encapsulate some kind of application or security component. We can say, when you're at home, here's how to safely access your salary
Yeah,
or your time
documents.
management. So there are different scenarios for different folks. So if you can imagine, the realtor would be one use case. But now if you had, say, an accountant who's actually doing the corporate accounts, right? And they don't leave their house. They basically do that, working from home under 100%. So that scenario may be completely different. You know,
Yeah, no,
um,
I get that. Yeah, so each business basically needs to have a consultation to see its weaknesses, and then from there it would need to be almost tailor made to each business.
right. And one of the things that I usually do with the business is I come in and try to figure out, create a base level of what is it you have and what is it you're trying to do, right? And it's just a basic, like, you know, here are the tools. And in some cases, I don't know if you've, some people, have you ever seen the movie uh, Princess Bride?
Yes,
And
yeah, long time ago.
there,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, there's a scene where they're just reviving the hero from the dead, and he's laying there, and they're going to attack a castle, and he literally wakes up, and he's like, "Oh my God, who am I?" and all this stuff, right? And he says, "Well, long story, we want to attack this castle. We only have, my brains or your brains, my muscle, and his sword." And the guy's like, "Absolutely impossible. No way. You can't. You can't attack the castle." you know, and they basically say, well, we do have we have a wheelbarrow. It's like, well, why didn't you tell me you had a wheelbarrow? That changes the entire thing. Now we can attack the castle, right? And that's the sense that I've gotten lots of times with businesses is a lot of times with businesses, they actually don't know that they have a tool that can actually do a lot more and protect them. And it's basically sitting there unused. They just don't know what and how to use the tool correctly.
Mm,
One of the basic ones is Microsoft Office 365. There are a lot of things that are built into it and a lot of settings that can actually be tweaked to provide a much more secure environment. And in a lot of cases, depending on the data, there's small modules that can be purchased at an additional cost that are transparent to the user, that are much easier, that will reduce the risk and the threat quite a bit. You know, and in some cases, there's and this is the other reason I like to do a base analysis is that I can't tell you how many times I've gone into a business and they're literally using this, they're using 5 different applications or more to do the same thing. So
yes, I've
some
seen
of
that.
these, it's coming in and saying, look, you've got, 100 people, they're all using, 5 different antiviruses, and you're paying premium cost for all of them. Why don't you just say you're going to use 1 or 2 of them and maximize your cost? I mean, maximize your return on investment here.
So, because and I want business owners to understand this, Leo. The because I know and I've talked to a lot of business owners and they're like, my people are so much more happier. We've been doing Zoom and Zoom calls and these videos and they just love being at home. They can be with their dog and take their dog for a walk in the middle of the day and take a break and go to the gym, do all these different things. And so now it's looking like, well, should I have them go back to the office? So this cost weighing, how people can be a lot more happy and have joyfulness in their work compared to the cost of me getting hacked, cybersecurity. Is that, what is that way? You know what I mean?
Well, and actually, one of the things that I agree with everything you're saying and with the experience that you've heard. I would actually have a conversation with the CFO or the person who does the accounting of that company, because one of the interesting components of it is the overhead of having office space. If you remove the overhead of that, now basically the cost of working from home becomes much more attractive. There's also a lot of things of like owning computers. In the managing and owning a computer from the IT side, purchasing computers, sending them out. If somebody leaves a company, making sure that they get the computer back. All of that is overhead and a lot of cost that goes with that. So if you can, imagine looking at a business and saying, "Hey, instead of you know, let's review all the applications you need for your actual business. Maybe we can move you over to the whole G Suite, the business G Suite, and everything you have is on G Suite." Now the concept comes of, well, why do you need to give somebody a computer for, a company computer or a business computer? Why not basically just say, hey, instead of giving you a company computer and then having us have, refresh it every 2 or 3 years, we just give you $1,000 or $1,500 and you buy the computer and you keep the computer. And every 2 or 3 years, you just refresh that.
Yeah, no, I mean, see, that seems, when you start thinking it that way, because here's what I want business owners to know, and I've heard this, especially here recently, you're going to lose your employees. From what I'm hearing, you're going to lose your employees because if you make them go 100% back to the office, they're going to start looking for work that allows them to do a hybrid model that does both, are fully stay at home. So you're going to, and I want business owners to understand this. So, just if you force them back to the office, they may enjoy that for a period of time, but they're going to start remembering of the freedom that they had working at home. And if they're a good employee and they're self-motivated and productive at home, you want to make sure you offer that. And I know a lot of people are doing this, trying to look at a hybrid model with this, and then having a percentage of people in the office, a small percentage. But I think this is probably the most important issue we have right now in understanding working from home. And so this is why I really wanted to talk to you, Leo, because this is exciting for me to see that this problem can be solved, and even for small businesses on a budget.
Right. And I would completely agree with that, what you just said. So if you can imagine, most of the people, if I, so here in Boise, I had a 30-minute commute to work, which isn't bad. When I lived in Portland and Seattle, it was an hour to an hour and a half,
Hmm.
right? So if you can imagine having that hour commute, now I go into work, and for me, I usually ended up working 8 to 10 hours a day, and that didn't include lunch. So now I've got, say 8 hours plus 3 hours. So I'm putting in 11 hours of work, right? Not being at home. I usually ate my breakfast, before I got there really early. Didn't see my family. So now with this work from home, I wake up, have breakfast with my wife, have coffee, I see her, we have lunch together, I work. And here's the most important thing that a business owner has to look at. So when a person is commuting or when they were unavailable for lunch, they were literally, it's like you're getting 8 hours, you know, strictly from that person. But now, if they're working from home, a lot of people are trained to work like that 11 hours that I was telling you about. So now, where before I was almost, and I'm using myself as an example because I was using a lot more than 8 hours, but where I had gone into a thing of 3 hours of commute, 8 hours of work, now I'm in a maybe 9 hours because I've got that extra time, right? And
Yeah.
I feel much better because I'm working, I see my family more. And your point is exactly the same. If I was offered if I was looking for a job, which I have no intention of leaving CRI right now, but if I had two job offers on the table, and one said, hey, you need to come into the office, you got an hour commute coming in, it's great paying job, etc. And I had another offer that basically said, 10, 20% less, but 100% remote, work from home. You know, my first choice would probably be the work from home.
Right.
And I have a feeling that a lot of people are in that same boat, that, you know, the work from home model is really showing a lot of benefits to the work life balance. You know,
Yeah, and Leo, one of the things that small businesses don't have on these big corporate businesses is this. As a small business, you can move and be more flexible than a large corporation. So you may not be able to pay what a large corporation pays, and you may be 20% less. But if you offer work from home and maybe once a week you come in for meetings, and you have a fun meeting, and you provide lunch, the work-life balance and that person being happy, because I work from home and I may go to the gym for 2 hours, but guess what I'm thinking? I went to the
yep,
gym from 1 to 2, so I need to make my 2 hours up.
yep.
And any good person that's responsible is going to do that. If you don't have somebody like that, I guarantee you there's 1,000 other people that would be more than happy. Plus, you don't have to be as local.
Correct. And that's one of the other things. Now that when businesses open that work from home, now you have a nationwide, even an international workforce that you can draw on.
Yes,
Um,
exactly.
and one of the things that I think we've learned in this last 10 to 11 months during the pandemic is the managers and executives have really learned that things will not break when people work from home. And I would actually point out that when you have employees work from home, you one of the metrics on performance becomes the quality of the work that they present, right? So there was a sense of management before where the concept was people would quote work if you see them sitting at their desk, and the quality of their work was something else. But now, since you don't see them, you have to depend on the quality of their work and their deliverables. If you manage them to the quality of your work and the deliverables, you can instantly see the people that are not productive in a work from home environment, and that is an employee performance issue. That is not a work from home issue.
So, so Leo, what is the thing that we can do specifically to make sure, if we, so it's like, okay, everybody's thinking like, this is great. I love this. I'm a small business. I'm on a budget. I have, 20 employees, 40 employees, 200 employees, whatever that may be, is what we look at a small business. And they're saying, I want to continue this work at home model. And they want to call you, or they want to, do you guys set up like consultations? How does that work?
Yes. So I've talked to our CEO, and one of the things that we're going to be offering as part of our security practice is a 15 to 30-minute free consultation, and we'll share my link and information so that people can call and schedule. And what we'll do is, it's basically, as long as I don't have to sign an NDA or have access to any sensitive data, I'm happy to answer, and my team is happy to answer generic questions that they might have. Like, even saying things like, "Hey, I just got ransomware. Do I have to call the FBI?" We can point them out to, like, provide them with the resources. Or if they basically say, "Well, what are the best practices, that are out there? What could I follow?" The FTC and the FCC both have some great websites, and one of the challenges that I've seen is that when I've pointed people out to small businesses out to this website, is that the FCC and the FTC have great websites on what to do, but the thing that falls down for most businesses is they don't know how to do them.
Yes, exactly.
Like, one of the basic things that comes out is, "Hey, you need to patch your computers." Well, that's great, but how do you do that? Right? How can companies and businesses do that? And there are services, and this is where the if you want to, this is where we look at providing the free service, because we can basically say, look, here's the free service, but we know in a lot of cases that this is just a single pain point. Their
Right.
security posture may take a lot longer, and that's where we look at saying, if you have a simple question, happy to answer it. We want to build trust. We want to be a trusted advisor. And this is the thing about cybersecurity, because it's not a case of that it's not going to happen. When you have an engagement that you do need help, we're there, and we can provide that as part of a consultation service to both help them secure it and resolve the issues and maybe prepare for the next issue.
So, because I want business owners to understand, one, this is a huge issue and it's extremely important. But number two, I think people put things off. As leaders, we tend to put things off that we don't understand, one. And number two, we think is ultra complicated. So
Right.
how complicated is this? So let's say they set up a 15, 20-minute phone call, and then they look at, okay, I need some, cost-effective practices. And, I want to have you guys, manage, our business, we'll work from home and all that. Is it pretty simple to do? Do they have to hire an IT person that talks to you? You guys, what is it? Is IT people coming to people's homes and setting up their Wi-Fi? Is it simple to do, or is it super complicated?
So the answer is yes. And the reason I'm saying it's yes is because it really depends on the uniqueness of each company, right? There are different needs and different requirements across the board. And I completely agree. This is one of those things where people keep putting it off. And I've always tried to come up with a really good analogy about cybersecurity. And the two that I seem to keep coming back is that, cybersecurity it's almost like when somebody says, "Hey, I want to be healthy," right? And so
Yeah.
just saying, "I want to be healthy," what does that mean? I mean, healthy is completely different to different people. If somebody just had a heart attack, um, and they basically say, "Well, how complex is it for me to be healthy?" It's like, "Well, you need to change your eating habits, your exercise habits. You need to do this." And uh, Is it providing a trainer to go in and say, hey, make sure you go through this, or providing a gym, or somebody who just got some kind of physical injury? So it's always kind of unique. And the other analogy that I keep coming back to is it's also cybersecurity is to be blunt, it's kind of like being a janitor at a gas station. You know,
Mm.
stuff happens in those bathrooms. And the thing about cybersecurity is that um, it's like imagine having a clean bathroom. In its best form, when a business does not have cybersecurity as a practice, in its best form, cybersecurity is clean. Nothing happens, right? So your ace, super CISO, most awesome guy, you will see nothing happening across your business. In other words, everything functions amazingly, and nothing bad happens. The problem is that stuff happens in the bathroom,
Yeah,
and
regardless of how clean it is.
yeah, and what happens is, things happen. This is just, it's a public, if you imagine just it's a public bathroom.
Yeah, I mean,
Stuff
there's
is going to
hair
happen.
users, prostitutes, all that stuff.
Right. And that's one of the biggest problems with the cybersecurity field that still persists. It's like there's almost a sense in the business that, hey, the bathroom, I went in there, the bathroom's dirty. It's your fault. It's get out of here. You're fired.
Mm.
It's like, but the reality is stuff happens. And again, this is one of the things about cybersecurity, you can read this about people who are in the cybersecurity career. It's like there's a lot of burnout, there's a lot of churn. They get really tired because at the end of the day, a lot of them realize that it's a zero sum. It's like if they do their best job, it's zero, but stuff happens. There it's not that businesses won't get hacked. It's just a matter of when they will get hacked.
Right.
When is the shit going to hit the fan? When are they going to be ransomware? When are they going to get and for me, one of the things that I've noticed is, and this happens all the time, that people know about it and they really don't. It's just like what you said about the clicking of the emails, right? Hackers are very educated. They know that if they go after your C levels, they know if they go after your finance teams, you can easily check the logs of any of these, and you can see, if these people have published their titles, right? Like if somebody goes out there and says, "Hey, I'm the account manager for, or the finance account management uh, budgeting, analyst for Amazon." Oh my God, they're going to be like a huge target because everybody wants to get access to the accounts. So there's a lot of little things that I could, or that we could advise, and some of these are just best practices, right? And again, it's kind of like those. Like I said, I struggle with an analogy to equate cybersecurity. It's the, hey, just eat healthy, do your basics, right? There's some really complicated, or they're very diverse security practices that are out there. NIST from the government, the International Standards and Technology Publishing, and ISO 27001. They're huge, they're comprehensive, but a lot of small businesses, they have trouble with just the basics. And for me, that's why I really would direct people to the FCC and the FTC to their website on securing small businesses, and basically say, look, just review these.
Mm.
You'll
Yes.
you'll notice that a lot of these and a lot of best practices start off with training your people. It really is as simple as training, right? And I think I've mentioned before, it's like the problem is not what needs to be done, but it's how. So going back to like, well, I got to train people. How do I do it? Right? As a small business, what does that mean for me? You know, um, One of the most cost-effective ones that I've seen used is a service out there called Know Before, and real easy to set up. Somebody who's used it before can set it up really quickly, really easily, and you can actually have reports to show who's actually taking the training and who doesn't. And there's quizzes, lessons, education, really good. And it's actually one of the lowest one of the low hanging fruits that's really easy for a small business to do. Just basically go out there and say, look, just take these trainings, sign up. It's pretty low cost. I don't remember what the latest cost model is for KnowBe4, but there are competitors out there that are just as good as well.
So it's like knowbefore.com or something like that, and it's doing training on cyber security for small
Correct.
businesses.
Yeah, and it's literally across the board, not just a small businesses, but it's very affordable for small business. So you could
Oh,
literally sign up people and they get an email saying, okay, here you go. One of the things I do like about them and other competitors is you can actually set up a test phishing incident where you can try to phish your employees. And if they click on an email, basically it automatically enrolls them in a class that says, hey, you've just won a phishing course. So now you're required to do this phishing training.
I love that. Yeah, that's awesome. That's super cool. Yeah. So then you can find your weak links in your organization
Exactly.
and then educate them on that, instead of calling them out or anything.
Yep. And one of the things that I've kind of, if you want to kind of think of like a gold standard for work from home, there's a technology out there called VDI, which is virtual desktop infrastructure. Conceptually, as a security person, I really like this thought because what it does is going back to people working from home, right? So if you can imagine, you have uh, a little app or a browser where you click on it, and all of a sudden it pops up, and it's a computer inside the browser on Azure or on Google, right? So now all your computer applications and all your files and all your communication to your company are in Azure with a secure location. And the business and the IT department of your company can now make sure that it's patched, it's updated, that the data doesn't leave the virtual computer. If you lose your computer, it doesn't matter because now you can connect with it to a browser. So there's a lot of advantages to that, but it also comes with there's use cases where that's successful and where it's not successful. Going back to like your realtor, example, there may be cases where the VDI would be very advantageous, and other places where just a browser that gives them access to a service is more advantageous.
Yeah. So I want to, for sake of time and be respectful, Leo, I want to make sure people understand how they can get a hold of you guys. And I know you guys are rolling this out. What would be the best way if there's a small business owner and they want to consult with you? Are you guys, what is the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Well, we're updating our website, and it will be up there fairly soon. I'm happy to share my scheduling with my scheduling link so that anyone who is interested in talking to me can just check my calendar and get on 15 to 30 minutes on there.
Yeah, that's, and I'll make sure I put that in the show notes and send it. This show, I'm usually like 2 weeks out, so on the show, so that'll give enough time for everything. But Leo, I really appreciate you being on the ABQ Business Podcast. This was hugely informative, and I'm super excited. I think you just gave a lot of hope for business owners and gave a direction, hopefully, and tell this isn't like taxes or any of that. I know it feels like that, but you can't put this off. You will. It's the same as tax. You put it off, you're going to get audited. If you put off cybersecurity, you're going to get hacked. It's just the nature of it.
Right. And this is, I mean, it's like everything else. I mean, you have to think of it as a business. And I was talking to a friend of mine how businesses, when they get on the internet, it's kind of like imagining you're in the Grand Bazaar now. It's not your local, Albuquerque or your local Boise City. You are now on the worldwide bazaar. And the thing about it is, you're right next to like the big boys, but you're also right next to the sleazy guys, and they don't mind going in and trying to shake you down real quick. So, or anybody who's a newbie, and if you don't have quote, and I'll put controls, and that means in a lot of cases when I say controls, it's kind of like having your booking ledger completely open and visible to people. Unless you close it up and lock it, they're going in there and checking everything out, and they'll do it in a heartbeat. If they can get 2 or 3 cents from it, there's millions of people out there. So getting 2 or 3 cents from 100 people and making a couple of dollars a day, that's free money in their pocket. It's a business.
Yeah, no, I get that 100%. And I hope business owners will reach out, and we'll make sure we put the links in the show notes. Well, Leo, thanks again for being on the ABBQ Business Podcast. I really appreciate all the information. I mean, you gave a ton of information out. And I'm really excited, and I hope some small businesses will get in touch with you and they can get this set up so that their employees can stay happy, work from home, and be productive at the same time. So thank you, Leo.
Oh, absolutely. I feel like we were across the board, and that's one of the challenges with cyber is that there are so many different variety and different questions that, we could have literally just talked about working from home with one specific use case to help one particular business. And we could have I could have pretty much well gone this for hours because there are so many different variations that help small businesses that I can't really give a blanket statement. Again, it's kind of like somebody saying, "Hey, I need to be healthy." Some people, taking a walk will help them. Other people going to the gym, you know, diet changes. I mean, there's so many different variables or combination of variables that would be hugely beneficial to each business. That it really does involve a bit of background of what they're trying to do and what they have.
That's great. Thanks, Leo. Appreciate it. And I hope you have a great day there in Boise.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on the Albuquerque Business Podcast. And thanks to our sponsor, RigbyDigital.com. Make sure to subscribe and share. And go to abqpodcast.com. Get show notes, resources, and links to everything we talked about today to help you navigate your journey as an entrepreneur and business owner.